Welcome back, everyone, to the Womanhood Project podcast. I am your host, Lizzie Morris. I have quite a bit of a sore throat today, so excuse that. This episode, guys, is a long time coming. I recorded this back in January with my friend Zoe, the Jungle Fairy, and I'm just getting around to having it edited and finally uploaded. And I'm really ecstatic. Like, I have listened back to this episode about 3 or 4 times on my own now before fully having it ready to publish. And there's just so many different things we dive into. If you don't know much about Zoe, she gets more into details while she's speaking, but we talk about her cesarean birth. We talk about her VBAC home birth with a traditional midwife. And that leads into her cancer diagnosis. She was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer while being mom building a house in the jungle with 2 kids. So she now has a farm, is, an amazing entrepreneur, very artistic, creative. She is honestly a huge inspiration in my life. I don't know if she knows how much she inspires me to just do better, be better, and really be myself at the end of the day. I think her authenticity really speaks true in everything she does. And that's just something I value in people. So, I want to just go ahead and stop here and let you hear what Zoe has to say. But please check out the show notes. Go follow her. I'll have everything linked to see all the projects she's doing. She's got books published. She has a whole sun cream line that is reef safe and really great for your skin. I love it. Me and the kids use it. It smells amazing. And so many other things. She's into birth stuff and I hope you love her as much as I do. So, without further ado, guys, let's get into it.
No,
Welcome back, beautiful soul.
it's so
Well,
nice to be here.
yes, welcome back to the Womanhood Project podcast. This is the space where we dive into birth, intuition, radical responsibility, and reclaiming our autonomy. So, I'm the host, Lizzie Morris, and today I'm super excited to have a guest, Zoe.
Hey.
Zoe, I could say so many things about you, and I literally was sitting here like, do I come up with the intro for her, or do I? Because I was like, she's got a farm and she's like this fairy in the jungle. But I will stop there and I would love to, let you say whatever you want to say. Just give like introduction, like what is your lifestyle before we even get into all the crazy stuff that I know the listeners are gonna want to hear.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's an honor to be able to just kind of sit and chat as girls and be like honest about life without censorship of social media. I like the freedom that this kind of gives us to talk about these things. And yeah, I'm Zoe, and I'm a 29-year-old stay-at-home mom. I've got 2 girls, and I live off grid in the jungle, and I'm situated on a volcano, but it doesn't make me, that far away from the world. I'm still, able to go to the store and stuff like that. So people, I've got a car. We built our house, and we're just kind of trying to live as sustainably as possible. And we've got a bunch of ducks, chickens, and it's just been really fun. Like, I've just canned up a bunch of holiday goodies today, and that's kind of why I was late today. I apologize. You want to say hi? Come here, come say hi. But yeah, I've got these 2 girls, and one of them is just turned 8, and then I've got one that just turned 3, and it's just so crazy because I feel like I really lost so much time with everything. I had to fight cancer, and that was unexpected right after her, and so dealing with that and how fast time went, but also how slow time went. I wasn't really able to process much of anything. And so now I'm just healing from it all and so grateful to be here and have opportunities to really expand on what I experienced, because I think it's just getting more and more common where people with kids have cancer, and you know and then they have pre-existing trauma. I mean, I'm young, and so I've got this whole other young life that I still haven't processed. I just feel like it's been really fast. Growing up is so fast.
I hear you in the way that like I mean I even remember when you had got diagnosed, I guess last year. Yeah, it was like early last year, 2023. And you're only like a year and a half older than me. And yeah, we both had two kids. And I mean, I had another friend go through that as well. And just, I don't know, going through like the health crisis in America, it is scary to see someone that, I mean, anybody go through something like that at such a young age. And I'm sure you get told all the time, like, you're so strong. And it's like, really, you really have no option. Just do what the fuck you have to do to
Right.
survive. Excuse me. Hopefully your kids, I don't know. I should have asked that before. If I could
Any
curse.
field is like that. Yeah, it feels like any field is like this. They say, "Oh, like aren't you so lucky to, have gone, now you have the hindsight or whatever." And I don't think it's as cool as people are making it out to be. Like, yes, I got this experience at such a young age. Um, the same thing. It's like the same thing as saying to somebody who just had a traumatic birth, like, oh yeah, your birth is, at least you have a healthy baby. Like, yeah, but there's, now the survivorship trauma of dealing with that first experience, that medical trauma, and just putting your faith, having it kind of like weaponized against you. And then you have this whole other experience where like you have to rely on these people to survive, and still having that other experience in the back of your head, like, God, I hate these people and what they did to me when I was giving birth. And so I'm trying to blend these two things together now, also to stay on point, but just how true it was to what kind of happened with me. It was just like this hypocritical trauma that I had to like compartmentalize. Like, birth trauma is not cancer trauma, but they're both so messed up. Um, yeah, two wildly different journeys. I feel like they're both necessary when they need to be. Like, there's a time and place for like intervention, and there's time and place for Western medicine and cancer care, and um but I do see how they really push it in both fields, and there's this kind of trauma around it, like, oh, at least your baby's okay, you survived, now who cares if you're infertile, now you survived, you don't have cancer, you would have been dead. And it's very yes, I'm grateful to still be here and all that stuff. It's just talking about the damage that it causes, though, is it's pretty big. It's pretty big. Yeah. And like with my firstborn, it was more of a lack of education, I think, on what the hospitals do. Like, what are they well versed in? Because like I went to the hospital and had like a tour, and I was, waddling around and got briefed and followed around with a nurse. And it seemed like I trusted my OB. I mean, she seemed cool, but she did all of the tests. I never knew that I couldn't do those things. It was just like, okay, we're going to do this appointment at that, we're going to do the swab. And uh, yeah, I think the pandemic really allowed me to see home birth as like a choice. Like I don't know if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I would have gone to a hospital or not. So like that's when I got pregnant with my second baby. It was like during that time where they were like doing so many messed up things to women, and like I just didn't want to be separated from my firstborn. Like, I wanted her to be a part of it. They said that you can't have kids like in the delivery room, and you have to like wear a mask while you're laboring. And um, I was like already turned off. Like, half of my appointments were going to be over the Zoom call. And I'm like, what? Like, that's not prenatal care. And so it, it was a miracle how I found traditional midwifery, and how there is so much underground available peace of mind that's like these women who have unlearned what they were taught, and they help people who are like me and who would have been put in a box and said, oh, you can't birth like that. You need to, be safe and all this stuff. But the C-section that I had was caused by them. So it wasn't ever me. Like it wasn't my baby. It was them. So just putting these pieces together, it just made it all feel like the safer option, like where I had the most control. But this was before I knew I was sick, you know?
Hmm.
I was kind of bragging about how fucking healthy I was online. Like, look, I eat papayas and lentils and meat. And like, I really was like loud about health, even though I was like at death's door, and I had no idea, because that's just how like the cancer like works. It kind of like flares up. Um, so it was just very weird to realize that like me being constipated and like having hemorrhoids and stuff, like it was never about my diet or my lifestyle or the state of the health of me or my baby. It was just like the fact that my tumor was on my rectum. And so when you have a baby sitting there, it gets really bad. And like, I was just like told like this is normal, like it's hormonal, it's, based off of blood flow. And so just even being told by professionals over and over and over every time I was pregnant that this is just normal, it's being a woman or being a mom, or lots of like not close enough care. But it's like, how can I advocate for that? It's a hypocritical thing. Like, do I want that closer care? Did I want that? Like, how could I have advocated any more for what I was experiencing? You go to the doctor, you complain of bowel pain or hemorrhoids. They're not going to like take you seriously, I guess, especially if you're pregnant. They're like, no,
Because they're already doing so much like other stuff, which really isn't stuff. Like, okay, you tell them you want your thyroid panel run or ran. They don't do it correctly. Like I've been there where you're like, even when you advocate, they don't pull through all the way. And then it's like, you almost feel like, do I want to be that patient, and it's terrible that we feel that way. It's not fair that we feel that way at all. And I don't know, like, if you want to go back to starting with your first, because I would think like when you had to first start advocating for yourself and your baby, you know, just to give people more context. So
yeah,
obviously, like you've already mentioned, you had a C-section, but like
me, my,
how, and you, no, I mean, I would think, I'm sure many people probably know you. This is the Jungle Fairy, you guys, Zoe. But like to give people like a picture, you had this C-section, but you weren't it wasn't expected. Like you said, it has nothing to do with your baby. It's not like it was planned. Um, if you don't mind, do you feel comfortable going into some of the details of like how your labor started, or like how did you find yourself? I mean, I don't like, I guess finding that mistrust in the medical establishment, right? Like, I don't know what your relationship was with it before you got pregnant with your first, if you want to even go to that, because I'm seeing like this theme of, you know, with the cancer diagnosis, with the VBAC home birth, with the C-section, like it's just this constant like back and forth battle. I don't know. I'm not just dealing with the medical establishment, dealing with your body. Like all these different things are going on at once.
in high school, I really wanted to be an anesthesiologist. And I was really, really like into math, and I was like super driven. I'm like, I want to go and at least have an engineering degree. And so I learned that you could emphasize in like types of engineering. And so I saw biomedical as an option. And I was like, okay, so like a chemical engineering, biomedical emphasis, and I can do fine art on the side. And I, had an older sister who had a home birth. I think it was a birth center birth. And I was just like blown away that, I loved it. I loved that she did that. And it opened my eyes to that as a possibility. And I hadn't really thought much of it prior to that, what like all of the chemical opportunities for engineering, like what that would lead me to, and like how I couldn't like just change the system from the inside out. I wanted to be like, not a doctor, but like I wanted to be like that girl, the smart, like in the medical, like I was going to a university that like was tier 1 for their medical fields, like their stuff, but I wasn't smart enough. I kept like flunking the math parts. And so I had to start from like the very beginning, basically. And it took me 6 years to get nowhere. Like I don't have a degree, but I spent 6 years of my life trying to be that. And the more and more that like I learned and all this stuff, I was just like, you know what, like this really isn't for me. And especially now that I have like a little one, like I don't want to be away from her like this. Like this is crazy. They wanted you to be like in, residency and like all of this stuff. Like no way, not for my mind. It just didn't. It was a dream that I said no more. And so yeah. And then when I had my baby, I think that also kind of killed it. um, I mean, I was like, wow, like these people know nothing except scare tactics. Like the OB that I had was very nice, but the doctor that ended up, coercing me doing C-section, she was just this on-call nurse or on-call OB, and it was election night in 2016, right? So this was like Donald Trump and it was the first of that. And literally, was it Hillary? Was it Donald? Okay, so yeah. And at the time, I was because I was in college, I think, and I was, super broke. I was so pro Hillary. I was like wearing her shirts. I thought she was fucking the bee's knees. I literally, I cringe. So I don't know if you're a Hillary fan, but the past that I have with just confronting my views and how much they have changed. I mean, holy shit, I'm rolling in my grave, But don't come at me. They are very good at what they do as far as convincingly, like, oh, look, like here's a woman, But like, I was one of those people who were like, Donald Trump, like, no, he says things about women. And it put me, I think, in a panic when I was in labor. My dad had the fucking election on the hospital TV while I was laboring, screaming every time a fucking state turned red. And I was like, oh my God. Like, and so knowing now about physiological birth, and I'm just like, oh my God, like literally, this is the problem. It was the light, it was the chaos, the energy, the dynamic. And like, I was also politically like dumbfounded. So I was like, okay, this is not a good day. And so honestly, I could have probably labored at home looking back. Like I should have never walked in that hospital on that day. Like I should have just stayed home, like literally, and maybe had the baby in the morning. The way that it was progressing was beautifully, until I was in a hospital room with the election on. And so she was born, 2 o'clock in the morning, the next day after the election results had came in and everything. But yeah, it was insane because I was waiting for my doctor to come in, waiting for her. But I think she didn't come in because she was watching the fucking election too. So this holiday crisis going on, like, yes, it's an important event, but like, come on, lady. She was really like not digging. The nurse that I had was super sweet. I gave her one of my paintings. I had painted like inspiration of like my birth and how like I wanted it to be. And it was like a flower and like the womb. And I was like, here, nurse, like, here, this is for you. Like, so, I mean, shout out to her. I thought she was really nice. I don't remember her name, but she helped me. And then her shift change happened. And this other lady came in, and the 9 nurses who didn't find heartbeats and had D cells up and down and all this stuff, and told me that I should probably like change positions like 100 times. And next thing I know, because I've got this big belt on me, they, I don't really remember if they gave me an IV or anything at that point, but I didn't want the epidural. I didn't. And they They gave me one before the C-section, I believe. They were like, well, we're going to numb you up to go to the C-section or something. And I remember getting that like last minute. And it was like a pain in the butt to get that in. And it was very painful.
So
And
you were like in active labor. You went into spontaneous labor like completely on your own. You weren't induced.
no, I wasn't induced. And they, I believe, were pumping me with a bunch of stuff. And what really sucks about this is I didn't have any like advocate who was telling me like, hey, like, you don't have to do that or whatever. It was just these like nurses who were trying to take control, and they were popping my water with and then they did an amnio infusion, as they call it, and flushed her. And that's when shit really went down with her happiness inside me. She was like, no, I don't like this. And that's when the lady rushed in and was like, hey, if you don't do this C-section, your baby is gonna die. And like was like in my face. And I was just like, okay, well, like, okay, yeah, like whatever, like do it, get her out of me. Like, come on, let's go. But the time that it took them to set up the theater and this charade of like, okay, like, let's see, let's see, if baby turns and all this stuff. And it was just like, there was more time. That wasn't an emergency, and then they had a student come in, and I had one doctor, the on-call doctor on one side cutting me open, and then some student on the other side cutting me open from the other cut. And so she's doing mirroring everything she's doing. And I remember I kept trying to reach down. I was in a panic. I kept saying like something over and over and over. I was like so scared. And the anesthesiologist kept telling me that he could not knock me out. And they strapped me down to the table because I kept reaching down. And I felt like I was like on a cross. Like they strapped me down to that cross table.
Yes, like sacrificial is like,
yeah, it felt very like violating, like, oh, you're gonna feel some tugging, and like it's really upsetting. Like, I mean, it wasn't it was like, you're gonna lay here and let me do whatever the fuck I'm gonna do with whoever, and you don't know what they're doing or why, and it's your first time and you have nobody here, and I'm not gonna even show you your baby. And I was so worried about her because they didn't show me her. They just pulled her away. And I was like, well, I can't wait to see that baby butt. And over and over and over, like I was like psycho kind of saying that over and over and over. I don't know why. And I never got to see that. And it really freaked me out. My mom comes around the corner and she says she's going to the NICU. And I'm like, okay. They pull me into this other room, right? And I can't feel my legs. My dad's sitting there. We're waiting to have the baby wheeled in. And I think they like wheel her by me really quickly, but she's already like in like this little box, and they wheel her away. And I was like, okay, so I guess that's her. Like it could have literally been any fucking baby. Like, I mean, it's crazy to think about. And when they were cleaning me up, this nurse like literally slipped in my blood on the floor, and like tools went flying everywhere too. I forgot about that. It was a shit show. I think that there was like something wrong. Like, I don't know if it was the student, but like I wasn't told why there was so much panic, or if that was seriously like just a genuine accident, like, oh, people slip. But like there was a lot going on. It was really fast. I was really drugged up, I think more than I should have been, because the guy wanted me knocked out really fast. And I was like, Hulk, Hulk adrenaline, like, and it's like, once I found out that she was in the NICU, I like was like down there with her, and she was like, they wouldn't let me hold her or touch her. She was like in a box with like the holes kind of thing. And the nurse was like basically telling me that like that she needed like to have like, they had me sign if I needed to give her formula or whatever. And I was like, no, I want her to have like breast milk. And so they were giving her breast milk down in the NICU. And I was pumping upstairs, but they only let me stay there 5 days. And they still like wanted her to breastfeed or take a bottle. They had like a nose tube in her nose. And whenever she tried to like suck, swallow, breathe, they said it that she couldn't like do it. And so she was like in this like high, like blue, dark facility part of the NICU for like a really long time. And she was the only full term baby that they had in that part of the facility. And they were really trying to get her to figure out, I think she was like aspirating on the fluid from that amnio infusion stuff. And then the C-section, I think it was just too much fluid in her lungs. And I think that's why she was struggling so much. And so kind of she was not, I couldn't feed her. Like they were like making it sound like, it's not safe or whatever. And so I couldn't breastfeed her until like day like 4 or something. And they had like a lactation consultant like basically work with me, and it was easy, a breeze. I mean, that she got down really fast, but they also had the donor milk in like the nose tube. So they were doing both at the same time, trying to like make sure she was getting her sustenance, but she was kind of lazy at the breast. And so it was like a lot of tickling under her chin, a lot of like boop, 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 and, trying to get her to swallow and then hold it down because she would throw up the bottles of breast milk. So it was hard to prove to them that she was good to go home because she couldn't take those bottles. And it took a lot of advocating. Like it was insane to try to get her out of just that area of the NICU. I wanted her to be away from that area where like I didn't have to wash my fingers with iodine and like be treated like I was a freaking foreign body. Like I'm this baby's mom. Like, it was, I think that type of care has a time and place, like if your baby's like see through or something, but like a full term baby that like just had, a traumatic experience and like, come on. So I think they weaponized the NICU against me. They tried to tell me that like she was safer there, and I would call them. Like I would go home after that day 5 or whatever and like go to sleep and drive myself after a C-section, on the highway down, to go visit her as often as I could to breastfeed her, to try to get her to leave. And it was until, I think they lost her on day 6. That she graduated from that scary blue area, and they were giving her a bath. And this is what I was told. I walked down to the scary blue room, right? Because I call every night and I'm like, hey, how's Zaina? Is she eating? Did she take her bottle? And they were like, oh, it's, not looking good, or, oh, it's great. And so I would get the down low. I was told everything was fine, that she didn't, always take her bottles or whatever. I don't remember them telling me on the phone that she had graduated. Let's put it that way. That would have been something to celebrate on the phone. I would have been driving there jamming. I would have known where to go. They would have told me, hey, go to this wing instead. There was none of that. I show up to the scary blue doom, and they are not sure where Zaina is. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that is literally like insane to me. Like, what do you mean? And so she was always like in this one little area. And I like was like looking around. I was just like, where did my baby go? Like, she's nowhere. And so I'm like trying to be conscious of like other families and other babies that are in there. But I literally was screaming. Like any other time I was quiet, but I was like, where's my baby? Like I was freaking the hell out. And it's honestly like infuriating to think about like how there wasn't a faster response. They were pulling up laptops. They themselves had no fucking idea. And I wrote a report, and the nurses that were like, the charge nurses that were there, they were both like all dumbfounded. They were like, let me take care of her. And so she actually took care of my baby. The charge nurse did. She took it into her own hands because she knew that somebody down the line had fucked up. And so she was like taking care of my baby. I trusted her. She's the one, I believe, that helped me find her and get reunited. They found her where they keep all of their laundry. It's like their storage unit, and it's like where they keep the clothing of different size. It says like NICU, preemie, 0-3, 3-6. They have like all of these donations. And then they have like on the top, a bunch of blankets. And like, there's just regular fluorescent lighting in that room. It's not like NICU warm, no warmers, no equipment. It was literally just the baby in a clear box in this room. Okay. And I was like, that is insane. And they tried to say that the shift changed in the nurse, and she was in the middle of a bath and getting dressed in this cute little outfit. Where's the cute little outfit? Like, so I would also bring my own daughter's clothes. Like I didn't always like have a fresh set or whatever overnight, but like she was wearing clothes that I brought in, that I had purchased. And so I just thought it was a really stupid lie. And they never really took me seriously or got to the bottom of it. And I had to find like the doctor of the NICU, who was really hard to get a hold of. And I had to show him that she was nursing okay. Like after that experience had happened, it was like, I was like, I need this baby home like now. And the charge nurse too, she was like kind of giving me the fear mongering thing. Like I saw her as a friend at the time because she was like the only person that like I had, like, other than my mom and dad. I was like really leaning on that sound medical, like, here, like, let me help take care of your baby since someone fucked up. And it was like, she was still gaslighting me too. Like, if you take your baby home, she'll never be able to come back, and she'll have to go to the children's hospital, and God forbid. And I'm just like, well,
I don't need her here. Thank God she won't be coming back here. Y'all left her in a fucking closet. What? Oh my God.
So I felt betrayed, and after being traumatized and also not being on painkillers, they were like, well, why are you driving here if you just had a C-section? I'm like, I'm not taking my Valium. I'm literally taking ibuprofen so I can nurse my baby and drive here. And they thought I was crazy and stupid and all this stuff, but I'm just like, I'm not going to trust my kid here any longer than I have to. I'm going to do what I can to try to get her out. And I advocated to stay in the NICU, and they made me weigh every diaper. They made me literally like log down when she ate, when she had a diaper change. Like, I felt like this baby is not mine. And so that's another reason why I kind of went the whole other route, when like didn't even get a birth certificate and stuff with my second baby, because I'm just like, Jesus, like they literally make it sound like you are not capable, and they're the savior and know-it-alls, and it felt like a test. Like I had to pass this test. And yes, we passed with flying fucking colors because, we were good and we were healthy. And that's just proof that she didn't need to be there. She didn't throw up once that night. And it's because she was exclusively breastfed. And then I was kind of hooked on that concept. So I exclusively breastfed her for like 4 years. I mean, I was psycho about it. But I knew it was also like literally what saved her life, what saved my postpartum too. Like we clung together. We were just a team. And it really rewired my brain. Like, yes, it was horrible. But it also allowed me to kind of like consider this home birth thing, and not having another C-section. Cause like, I didn't know you could be back, I had no idea. And so prior to me, like, that's why I kind of hopped on TikTok, because I was like, let me see, like, if I were to like talk about this, like, can I learn something? Like, is there people like me? And at first I was just kind of like, messing around. Like, I've never taken the internet seriously, but yeah, there was so much information. And I'm just like, okay, like confirming this with my midwife. And it's just like, changed everything. And it's just like this big cycle. And now I'm like so far out here in the jungle, man, I can't imagine doing that way on purpose, you know? So the advocacy, I think, gets confused for judgment. And it's a bit of both. I feel like you can't really advocate without not having judgment, but people need to be comfortable with that and know that this life is full of judgment and comparing things and analyzing things. And it's not a crime to try and process these traumas and say, oh my God, like, yeah, it is black and white when it comes to this. That was trauma and there is a way out, and it doesn't have to be like, this misinformation that's told by the people who are traumatized. I think those people make excuses for their bad experiences. Like, oh, my great grandmother couldn't, birth either. And my mom had a C-section and my grandmother had a C-section. So I have to have one. Like, people are like, they think it's like a genetic thing. And
Well, we'll all believe the stories that we tell ourselves, right? Like you didn't even know you could have a VBAC. So like if you never would have maybe got on TikTok, you might have, it's like those little things that like shift us to that like radicalize us. So like when you got on TikTok, what were the things that you started seeing?
a lot of like lip syncing stuff. I didn't really understand the format of the algorithm at all. I thought it was like really quick and fast. I had just been used to like, YouTube or whatever, just watching like long videos. I never wanted to join TikTok because like I had heard about like the corruption and stuff and like the spying and it just got to a point where I'm just like, that's kind of like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like whatever. I'm louder than them spying, so I don't care. And I'm watching and I'm seeing that there's ways that you can hashtag and kind of go down rabbit holes. And I started, seeing a lot of these big creators that were pregnant with me. And I was like, oh my God, like there's like this like motherhood, like crunchy, like there's labels for this vibe. And I'm like, okay, I can get with this. And so it was really interesting seeing how like as a stay-at-home mom, like who needed friends and needed community and was bored, that you can literally hop on an app and yeah, there's obviously people who suck, but there's really, really cool people and powerful people, care about issues and will like your stuff. And it gives you confidence to keep sharing and know that someone's hearing you. And this world can just feel so isolating. And then you meet these like super like niche people and it's like, oh, cool. Like, and so it was a lot of pro home birth stuff. I kind of like forced my algorithm to like give that to me and like I got it. And then there was the commenters that were like doubting me and I just love pissing people off. And so playing with that challenged me to also be well versed in what I'm confident about. And so it kind of was like a good exercise where like it's like in a debate team, like in high school or whatever, like you're forced to be like analytical and like, not just block everybody, but like, let's debate, like, let's expand me, like try to convince me otherwise, And so those people I realized, yeah, you're not going to change their minds, but it's good practice for you. And it gives you the chance to like get it under 160 characters too, like these little clapbacks, or you can use these sounds and really make your point or make someone look stupid because they are or whatever. And it's like these doctors that try to like stitch our videos. And it's like, well, you're just exposing yourself, babe. Like, thank you for getting triggered by my post, because this is part of the problem, that I can't speak up about it and you're trying to hush me. No matter what the doctor's trying to say, if someone's wrong or not, it's irrelevant. It's just another doctor who's trying to hop online and hush people who have voices. And it's just not a good look for the medical community. Like, they shouldn't get involved. They shouldn't try to say it's medical information or whatever. Like, of course it's not medical information. It's not a
But have you
public.
had doctors take your videos before?
Yeah, yeah. And it's embarrassing. Like, I think we all know the two that have been pissing off the world with the home birth community. There's the blonde one and the old one. Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? Okay, so I'm over the puppets that they have put in front of our face that try to like be trendy, but it's like really cringy just because of the mortality rate. Like, if they actually did try to lower it and acknowledge just the point of it being ridiculously high, like, it's too high. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen at all or anything, but they are weaponizing their business. And
Well, and you live in Hawaii too, right? That's where you had your births.
I had my C-section in Nevada, in
Oh,
Reno,
okay.
and it's not horrible, I would say. Not like a horrible. I'm not too sure what the stats are on Nevada. Maybe you can double check that. But
I'm not sure.
Hawaii is, I think, lower. It's pretty
Yeah,
bad.
Hawaii is, I think, one of the worst.
Yeah, and so they really don't like let you, and I use the word let you because if you are, in the obstetric world, they'll tell me like, hey, we won't let you have a VBAC or whatever, even in a hospital setting. And so it's like, well, I'm just going to go have a home birth then. And then they get scared. And so it was good to know why they're scared and then weigh that for myself and my particular. But it's so interesting because I had that cancer and I didn't know. So it's like, if I had known, I mean, it obviously wouldn't have changed anything about my birth. I had a beautiful home birth despite having the cancer, and it's not something that they could have saved me from. They didn't save me from it the first time either. Like, there's no way it wasn't there. So it's tricky. It's what if you could do that all day? What if I knew this or knew that, or would I have gone to the hospital? No, I don't know. I don't know. I have no freaking idea. That probably would have been really scary. But I'm really glad that it went down the way it did. But I did have a experience. I'm not sure if I shared about it online. I was really, really sick after I had my baby. And I thought it was a bladder infection because I was peeing white blood cells, like with those sticks that like you pee on, like your midwife will bring like little pee sticks. And I had perfect pee the whole pregnancy. And then when I had her, I ran a fever like 2 days later. And she was kind of concerned. She like was snuggling up with me. My midwife was like trying to feel me. And she's like, oh yeah, like you're hot. She's like, your milk's coming in. Like maybe you've got like this cystitis thing. Like, how do your boobs feel? And like, she really went above and beyond. Like, I love this woman. She really outsourced and resourced everything from her surroundings. She was trying to treat me with herbs. She was trying to treat me with oils and massage and steams and real holistic approaches that are definitely potent to try to deal with just practical things, ruling things out. It didn't seem imminent, but it was like I was really, really hot and I couldn't really get up. I was hurting. It hurt when I peed. And so I was like, well, maybe this is just like a bladder infection. And I kind of just didn't want to freak out about it. And it kind of got to the point where like they didn't know, like nothing that they did worked and they didn't know. And so because it was a traditional midwifery that worked underneath a doctor, I was able to get access to antibiotics. And she was able to find like a breastfeeding friendly one, and it was super mild and low on the intensity scale for antibiotics. And so even with it being a low dose, it knocked it out. I didn't have the white blood cells when I peed, but the pain never went away. The pain had always stayed, and still had really bad bowel problems. Like, couldn't go to the bathroom. I was trying belly binding. I was trying to like the diastasis recti that I had was really wide. And so I could see like so many lumps, and just, God, now that I have the freaking hindsight, I'm looking at myself with bowel obstructions, and the pain I was feeling on my bladder is because the tumor that I had in my rectum was sitting right on top of my bladder, and it was getting heavier and heavier. And so it was like literally just causing pain. And that whole during pregnancy too, I felt like I had like a ligament pain in my lower left quadrant, like of my belly. And that's literally like, if you took an x-ray machine or whatever and looked in, that would have been right where my tumor was. And so it was just kind of like, oh, it was just round ligament pain. Oh, it's just, the weight of the baby. And it's like, no, it was literally a fucking tumor. So my pregnancy probably would have been so much better if I didn't have the tumor, but it still was a very healthy pregnancy. Nothing was wrong with our birth. She, flew into the world, like a sneeze, fetal
I
ejection.
love seeing the video. Like your reaction is amazing. Yeah. So like, how long was your labor? And like the little details that people might want to know for any of the women going for their VBAC homework.
So my midwife kind of called me a unicorn. She said I had a unicorn uterus because the labor was only 10 hours, but the shooting out fetal ejection reflex thing, like she thought there would have been more time from transition to that. And it was just really fast. I think it was 17 seconds from transition to her completely out. And yeah, that last push, I mean, it was just like a flash. And it just kind of swarmed over me. I wasn't in like the optimal position, I don't think. I was like backed up against the pool, like, oh, but I wanted to, like, in my head be like this, like, ancient princess, like backed up against a tree, kind of like, or in the ocean, and like do this like cool thing. But it just was way too late. My oldest wanted to like be a part of it, and she started to like kind of get a little like grumpy because it was like really late. Like, she went to bed at like midnight, and she just couldn't wait for me to, push her out, I guess. It was just like, I need space. But we woke her up right as she was born to come and see. But it was, I wish she was there to see it. But I have the video, and she's, really, really happy that she, was as active with all of that. She definitely likes talking about birth and having babies, and even my baby, she's always talking about having babies, and it's just, birth is so important to teach. And but yeah, it was a very fast birth. And there was, so when my water broke, it was like dark green, like super duper, like split pea thick. Like, it had no smell, but it was dark green. And I call my midwife, and I'm like, oh no, like my water broke. It's freaking green. And she's like, okay, well, smell it, and what does it smell like? And I was like, nothing. She's like, okay, well, baby probably pooped maybe like a week or two ago then. And I was like, what? They do that? And she's like, yeah, they pee and they poop, and sometimes it sits in there for a while, like way before they're ready. And I was like, oh. And I'm like, I thought they just do that like right at the end. And there was no distress in her fetal tones, like when she had came by to come and check me out. And she wasn't concerned at the color and how she was kind of feeling with the baby's position. She was head down. She was engaged, and I didn't opt for any cervical checks. I didn't want anybody's fingers or anything up in me. And I was like, I'm just gonna just do this. And my partner and I, we danced in the kitchen, and I started to kind of feel like high in a way. And
Hmm.
I cried. I cried. I had waterfall tears. And then I started vomiting. It wasn't glamorous at all. I really wanted to like take videos and photos, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen at all. Um, but I kind of like remember not being comfortable. I tried sitting on the birth ball. I tried, you know, laying down on like the floor. I tried laying on the like a blow up bed that we had, like laying out on the floor. I tried the couch. And my midwife even brought like a stool and all this stuff. And I think I took a shower too, if I'm not mistaken. I was trying all the things. And I was living in just a regular apartment at that time. You know, I had my windows open, and I mean, it was not, I would say, ideal, but the birth pool was set up like in the house and like filled up last minute. Um, she didn't really want me to like be in the pool very long just because like my waters were open, which I've heard kind of like mixed things about. Um, so she didn't know like how long I was going to be in there and like keeping the water warm for like a long time. So I was just kind of like using that as like a tool at the very end for relief. Um, so I don't know like if that would have helped me like progress sooner if I had gotten in the pool like earlier than that or not. But I was falling asleep and waking up and having like crazy contractions and falling back to sleep. Like it was like I felt like nothing was in control. Like my brain was just like shutting off. Like, and that's the pain relief you get. It's like you get this build and it's like so excruciating, but it's really for only a little bit. And then it's like this release and it's in your mind. It's the release. It's not pelvic release yet. It's just a mind release. And like everything just goes black. And this is just for me. I mean, I've heard some women being able to like fully like, you know, hypnotize themselves and not even feel the pain or whatever. But I think it was like this battle I was kind of having. It was very raw and like, and I had to move
Primal.
out. My midwife, she was like, you sound like you're up. It's not a, she's like, you know, like do that deeper, that glottal tone. And so that's when I learned the power of frequency and humming and that those deeper tones for healing and transcending. It's like, you don't want to be nasal, like while you're contracting. That got me so much further with the deep moves. And yeah, it wasn't about like, okay, push, hold my hand, squeeze. It was like literally none of that. It was so just let your body do what you're gonna do. Like the baby will fall out eventually, kind of thing. And
Well, okay, so can I ask a question? So okay, so you get on, I know you mentioned TikTok and home birth, you start seeing these things, but like this midwife you had was like an underground midwife, right? So how did you even find, like backtracking, how did you
right.
find her? How did you realize this was a whole thing?
So what's really crazy about this story is I call it kismet because I was Googling birth centers in Oahu. And I learned that they don't really have birth centers in Oahu. There is no birth centers here, like ever. Like it's just not a thing, I guess. And so I saw like this kind of birth center where it's like a birth center practice and they have like this umbrella kind of name where they like do like different things. And I called the number on Google and it was the wrong number. Like it went to some lady's phone. And the lady picks it up and she's a new mom that had like just had a baby recently. And she's like, hey, I forget her name, but she's literally like a creepy simulation angel. And like, hey, like, I started crying. I told this lady how I didn't want to wear a mask and how I was so afraid of having a C-section again. And I just want to like have my baby. And I'm so afraid to go to the hospital. And like, I need help. Like, please, like direct me. Like, where do I go? And she heard my desperation, I think, in my voice and how I just vented to her all my trauma. And she's like, let me get you in contact with the woman that I birthed with, with this last baby that I just had. And she's just word of mouth, but it was the person that I needed. And she called me back and she's like, hey, like, this is my credentials. I used to be certified, and, this is, up to you. And this was during the time when there was a law protecting rural midwives and stuff. Like Hawaii was like protecting this, and it's recently become like this major battle
Hmm.
because they're trying to like demand that everybody is now like this certified midwife, but it's causing like people who literally live like in tide pool locations with no access to medical care, like people who live like on Lanai and they have no medical, they have to fly to Maui like in their labor. Like, what are you talking about? Like, they need someone to come to them, with equipment so they can save lives if they need to, but they are, hands off, and they, provide real medical care. And she had all the stuff, the oxygen, the, and the Pitocin too, like if you were hemorrhaging, like it's one of those situations where like they definitely come prepared. Traditional midwives don't mean no medicine. Doesn't mean that they don't know how to use it. Um, and there's like a whole community of these women who are trying to like literally battle like the Hawaii Council and the legislature, and like really like, and I was trying to fight. Like, that was one of the last things I did before I found out about my cancer. I was trying to picket for this freaking thing to get passed, and it was ignored. It was ignored by the council. That the guy like let it pass or something, and so now it's still like waiting. And yeah,
Mm.
so the legalities behind it are in the air, but it is a valid form of care, and most of the states respect it. That's the thing. It's like, of course, it's almost like, why wouldn't it be legal here unless you're trying to harm women, because of the minority rates and how bad they are in the hospital. Like when you are like these are the women that suffer the most from medical care, and now you're forcing them to be in that environment, which is just going to cause, I think, what they want, which is an increase in interventions, an increase in deaths, an increase in, people who are dependent on them. And it's, birth should be sovereign before anything. And if that is, in anyone's control, like it should be the mother, not the governor. Like, if a mom wants to do that, then go for it, babe. It's literally up to you. There should be options. And it's just, and then culturally too, like there's women who like literally like culturally, like they want a authentic Hawaiian birth. They have that birthright, and they are very in tune with their birthing. They're very like, you know, in the waterfalls. Like it's so beautiful, like what they want. And to take that from them is just once again stripping culture and whitewashing, and it's gross in my opinion. As someone who's just trying to also just be safe, it's not safe. It's 5 times, I think, riskier for me to go into the hospital and have a repeat C-section. Why would I do that? And so, yeah, birthing at home, it makes sense for people like me. And people are like so confused. They're like, oh no, aren't you scared? It's like, yes, I'm scared of having it again. Like, are you guys not, like, are you sleeping? Like, I don't want this to happen again. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's weird. And just kind of like, I've told so many nurses that I've been, because that's something I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of my VBAC. And I've been in contact with so many doctors and nurses just with this patient stuff. And I'm like, you know, going over my medical history. Oh, tell me all the surgeries that you've had. Oh, how many kids do you have? Oh, did the C-section happen before, after? Oh, this makes no sense. And I'm just like, well, it's because we are freaking superhuman. We are capable. I'm sorry that you were taught this. And I love teaching them. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So it's cool to tell them that you know.
So you have this VBAC, you have this home birth, you have this like postpartum experience right after having her. But then you go on to like keep breastfeeding her. You have this, you're advocating, you're doing your thing. What leads you, like, you've bounced around some about like your diagnosis. So where do you want to begin with that? Like, where did you find yourself reaching that point of finding out that you had
Right.
cancer?
So we were building our house and I was belly binding while baby wearing because the pain in the lower left quadrant that I was experiencing, it was like it felt like a torn muscle. And so I was trying really hard to like keep my core nice and strong while I was baby wearing. So that strap, like on the Tula baby carriers, like that dig into your hip bones there. I was trying to like prevent that pain from being there. So binding it, and it honestly was, it worked for the time being. And then when I would get home and take it off, it would just puff out and it would like stick out really weird. And I'd be like, looking at my partner, like, babe, like, do you see this lump? Like, what is this? And like, I felt like I was like body shaming myself at some point because I was like, maybe this is just like my new postpartum body. Like, I literally looked so misshapen though. Like it wasn't normal. Like I know like what my abdomen looks like, and that just looked, and it was painful. And so I was kind of like not wanting to go to the doctor, but work on my diet and binding and just see like, okay, like what happens with it. Because it's one of those things where like I would be able to go to the bathroom sometimes. And sometimes I wouldn't be able to at all. And I'd be on the toilet and, I had constant hemorrhoids. So there was like always like a little bit of blood. And it was just something I just kind of got used to. And it was, the belly binding stopped working. So I got a corset from Amazon and I was like, well, maybe this will be even tighter on me and I can like really like, push up these walls and do the yard work and chop up all these trees and everything. Like it was crazy. Like wearing what I was wearing, like baby wearing I mean, it was pouring rain. Like we were trying to get this house built within, a time frame, and just him and I and the kids. So it was kind of like just chaotic, and my pain was like there was no time for it. Like there's no time for him to take off work, so I can go to the ER to tell him that my belly hurts, and it kind of got to the point where like I like backed up. I remember I was also getting like really, really cold and I needed heat. Like I would burn my skin like in the shower and I would like eat ice constantly, like constantly eating ice. It was like a pregnancy craving that like never ended. And I was losing a bunch of weight, but I was breastfeeding too, like a bunch. And my baby was just constantly eating. Um, I mean, I think I can send you some photos over Facebook, but like she was a very chunky baby.
I know I've seen some of the memories. She was
Oh my God.
chunky. And that's so
So
crazy that your body could like do all that while fighting that.
it was, I think, the thing that brought it to my attention in time because it literally sucked me dry. All of it. It sucked me dry. It made me realize that something was wrong. But I threw the kids in the car and I'm 15 minutes away from a little market that sells prescriptions. And I'm driving down and I just get so cold. I have the heat all the way up and the kids are complaining. They're like, Mommy, it's really hot in here. And I'm just like, it's freezing. What are you talking about? And I felt so bad, but I was like, I'm freezing. And I get to the drugstore and I'm looking through like the constipation aisle and I grab Senna, like the Smooth Move and the Senna extract pills and some Miralax. And those have been like my go-to. Like I had been just relying on Miralax postpartum so I could have bowel movements because of the blockage. I turns out I literally only had like a teeny tiny little hole where poop could come through. So everything else that was solid was just building up inside me, and it would just liquefy, and I would have like these like explosive issues. And it was like so out of nowhere. And my body was like, I guess the cancer was growing through my fascia, like the abdominal wall, through the fat, through the fascia. And so once it's in the fascia, like it's very painful. And so it was like, it just felt very radiating. And so I couldn't even co-sleep with my baby. Like I'd be breastfeeding her at night, and she'd be in the little sea curl, and she'd put her feet up on me, and she would, she was like 16 months old, I think, when I found out. So prior to this, like, roughly a little bit over a year, she had been kicking me in the stomach at night. And I was like, oh God, like that hurts. Like, stop kicking me. And it was like one day, it just felt like I was injured by her when she kicked me, and I was in bed and I was calling my partner, and I'm like, I literally feel dizzy. I feel like I have like this overwhelming like heat, hot flash, like, I started having these really weird dreams. I couldn't sleep, but I was super tired. Like I was constantly drinking coffee, constantly drinking tea. Like I was so run down, like thinking that that was my normal. It was like crazy to me that I thought I was okay. And I couldn't even carry her anymore. I was losing strength, and it took about 30 days for my body to just lose all of its muscle. Like it was so fast. Like from January to March, I lost like 30 pounds, and it was all muscle, all fat. And I was still like building, and the house was livable, but like we did not want to stop building and working on the finished work and stuff. And it just got to the point where like I had to go to the doctor, and that's when everything changed. Um, you know, I was told like in the hallway of the emergency room after like 8 hours, like they didn't even have a room for me. They just had me like in the hallway on a gurney, and they told me I had a cancerous looking mass on my MRI scan. And that they don't know until a biopsy, but it's cancer, and they're so sorry that they were treating me so poorly all day and all this stuff. And they like wanted me to stay, and like they were talking me into surgery, and I was like, I want to go home and sleep in my bed and talk to my family and my kids and cry. And I lost it on these people. And so I left AMA and tried to deal with this as an outpatient. And it was the biopsy that almost killed me, because it perforated my bowels. Like when they stuck the thing in there, I went septic 3 days after that appointment, which is like within the window of like, if you have any infection, call, go in. And so I told the doctor, I'm like, I have signs of sepsis. And he's like, come in. And, they gave me this ostomy bag and all this stuff. And it was crazy. It was so crazy. I couldn't eat for like 2 weeks. They were feeding me with a fish bag. My cancer was progressing. They were telling me that they were seeing spots like all over the place. Like they were lying to me, I think. They were seeing stuff that wasn't there. They were trying to play safe and sorry. They had told me so many different things during that stay. They tried to tell me it was in my uterus, in my lungs, in my liver, in my lymph nodes, in my cervix. Like they were trying to tell me that they were going to take all of that. And I was like, fuck no. Like, why? Show me. Like, I don't get it. And these lesions kept like coming in and coming back and coming in and coming back. And so they were like, we can't get a clear picture. You need to go in and get like a PET scan. And I'm so glad I did, because it was not what they were saying. I had a cyst on my ovary, which was like normal because I was on my period, and that went away. And then my lung things, it's probably because I smoke weed. They're literally seeing little nuggets in there. And I'm like, dude, like, it's not cancer. I just, and so that cleared up on its own. And the liver and all that stuff, I had, spots on my liver, spots on my lymph nodes, and in my colon, obviously. And so it was stage 4, but it was like what they call like a oligo stage 4, like oligo metastatic, I think. It's like it's metastatic, but in less than 5 places. So it's like still treatable if you are like
Like somewhat controlled, kind of.
in a way, yeah, it's like, okay, it's small enough, it's manageable enough. We can target all of these areas with advanced treatment. Like I had access to crazy advanced treatment that saved my life. So I also had like a gene mutation that made me super sensitive to the entire thing. I had no idea. Um, so that helped. But it also made my symptoms of everything like exponentially worse because I'm sensitive, but it did the job. Um, so that was really scary. My milk dried up, obviously, when I was in the hospital. They didn't give me a pump. Like I told them I was breastfeeding and that I needed to express, but I was literally like in between surgeries and recovering and trying to change my ostomy bag. Like my boobs were the last thing on my mind, but it was like something that was causing fevers, and cancer gives you fevers like really bad, like when you have metastatic. And so I was always fighting these like fevers. And so, they won't let you get chemo if you have a fever. It's like bittersweet. It's like, yes, the cancer gives you, but they can't rule out if it's from an infection or not. And so it was like trying to prove to them that I'm not a walking infection and that this fever that I'm having is from my liver and so I had to really advocate to even get treatment because of how advanced it was. Like they just wanted to put me on palliative care. And so I had to really like get a doctor that would listen to me and advocate for me wanting to get that treatment, because they would have been just like, no, let's wait until you put on more weight, because I was super skinny too. They didn't want to give me chemo when I was 100 pounds. My normal is like 130, but I had lost that 30 pounds. So it was like, good luck gaining that. And so that's why I started drinking those gainer shakes, which I was able to gain weight with an ostomy bag on chemo with it. And so I just think that having my babies and it helped me like not just get sucked into the diagnosis. Like I was still forced to be mom and still like, hey, like, where you have something to look forward to, like you have projects to do, like you live in the jungle, like get so much to live for. Like, if you feel me, like I was not about to just lay down and quit and not do the treatment and all this stuff. Like I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna try to get better. I had no idea. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
really, really
And
bizarre.
well, so is it remission now? Is that like the correct term, or how does that?
Right. There's so many labels. I feel like people have told me, oh, you're not cancer free until 5 years, or you're
Oh
not
yeah, I've
cancer
seen that, and
free.
I think that's so stupid.
So dumb. Yeah, I've been cancer free for ever since my surgery in December and my Y90, 3 months after my Y90, they didn't see anything. So March, so April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, like 8 months technically I've been cancer free. So it's definitely like been one complication after the other, though. I've had a lot of surgeries to get, just back to my normal body. Like I don't have an ostomy bag anymore. I had to have 2 different types of ostomy bags. They were doing surgery down there, so they had to give me like bowel rest. So they like moved my ostomy from a colostomy to an ileostomy, and then I had to get the ileostomy reversed. So it was like 3 surgeries, but it was like crazy because the ileostomy surgery reversal that I just had, I had to go in again and have surgery like a couple weeks ago just because it wouldn't heal, and like I was allergic to the freaking stitches. So like I've been cancer free, but I've still been dealing with the treatment and stuff still, and being treated like a patient. And um, I still don't think it's quite hit me yet that and I think that's kind of why I'm like always like talking about it, like, cancer free, like posting about it, just because if you're not romanticizing it, no one's going to. People are just going to put doubt in your mind, and like you have to like really enjoy it because no one knows like what the future is. But with my likelihood of getting it again, I'm not at all worried about it. I'm confident that I knocked it out. It was bad luck to begin with, so I don't have any genes for it. And, I was really aggressive with my treatment, and there's so many good survivor stories. I think, I was actually just on like a Zoom meeting, with the GI Cancer Alliance. We're trying to advocate, to like the insurance companies here in America, like using our voices to tell them that they need to advocate for colon and GI cancers because there's this testing called MRD testing, and it's molecular residual disease. So it's kind of like a PET scan or a CEA blood test, but it's like the tumor parts of cancer before they turn into cancer. They can see that in people's blood now. So it would save so many people. And they just got to get these insurance companies to pay for it and make it accessible. And so like, I'm on this phone call with like all these like freaking big wigs, and I'm just like, this is what happened to me. I could have benefited from this, please. And so it was like, so intense, and it's so sad. There's like literally like no funding for it. I had no idea. I didn't know. Like more people die from it than breast cancer. I didn't know that either.
What, colon cancer?
GI cancers, like as a whole. It's like, and there's zero funding. And so it's like scary to kind of like know that the insurance companies are just basically profiting off all of these people taking their medicine because they're sick, and then they're not giving them like preventatives. The best preventative is a colonoscopy at 45, which I'd be dead. So
Well, I know everyone I've met has been like under 35.
And everyone on the panel on that phone call, like there was a couple people who were old, but everybody was like under 30. Like everybody's young. And it's like,
And
what are
like
they
it's like
doing?
it could be their kids. Like it's just so sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pe-
And that's what I worried about too. It's making sure that's not a gene thing. So my kids don't have to like be like hyper aware of, I mean, I think everybody who lives in America should probably be hyper aware of GI problems, but yeah, it's hopeful now. I think with the current state of the movement, I think it's a good message that I think would benefit a lot of people.
Well, honestly, like not you'll have to tell me more about it because I'm just thinking like a lot of people from my community with Jesse Lee would be, I don't know if there's like a petition. I don't know what we could do. If there's ever anything we could do, I know people that would totally want to help advocate for that, including myself, because I mean, it's just, I don't know, Big Pharma, how we feel about, about the insurance companies and stuff. They don't really, like you said, they're not going to cover preventatives. And I think people obviously right now are at the place where like, I think we're fed up. Well, everyone's been kind of fed up, but like people are really trying to take action. So, if we can leave anything in the show notes or anything you can think of, afterwards, I will totally like leave it for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Exact Sciences. Exact Sciences is the name of the company that's trying to put forward the MRD testing. They have a really, really great website where you can kind of talk about all different types of cancer preventatives. That's one thing that this will do is it's because so many cancers don't even pop up on the CEA blood test, which is like the only thing that insurance is going to like run to check you for cancer in your blood. And this MRD will like save people who have cancer that doesn't pop up with that type of blood test, which is like, I think also like pancreatic. And if I'm not mistaken, there's other crazy ones that are like really hard to beat. And they'd benefit from this being, caught early. Um,
Hmm.
so it's, my heart breaks. I totally forgot about, that was another thing when I was on TikTok and Instagram talking about what, like, it's like literally so upsetting because like, I'm like, I feel so guilty for being alive because of everybody that I watched online fight too, and then they died. I mean, it's really weird. It's really weird. And I feel like, what am I supposed to do? Like with this life? Like, there's so many people that I would have been like, you're so powerful. Like, please, like, like you just mentioned, your friend, your dear friend that you had met, like you hugged this woman and like you had a moment with her. And like, I know that I don't know much about like her journey, but like, I just feel like there's there's so many people that were like young and affected by this and like I was rooting for, and like I'm just so sad that that was it's just like this guilt thing. Like I feel like I'm not on the same, like why me? Like why you know what I mean? Like and I'm sure like everybody who survives this kind of thing kind of, if you survive anything, you're just like, why me? But it's like knowing that there's like people who literally are just the coolest people and the world fucking sucks. And maybe they were convinced by something that, I get it. Like the chemo sucked sometimes and the radiation, it ruined my life. But it's like, like I see why people don't want to do it, and I also see like why it doesn't work. Like some people try it and it just doesn't work, and then they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? And it's just like one of those things where like people it does work for, it's like we almost don't want to talk about it because I don't want to rub it in anybody's fucking face. It's like, where's the line between like bragging about beating this horrible thing and then it being also somebody's, oh, my dad died from that or whatever. Like I get these comments all the time where it's like, oh, I'm so glad you survived, like tell me what you did, and I'm just like, probably the same thing, it's not so easy. Like I don't know, like I genuinely don't know, and so I'm trying to like, you know really really do what I want to do in life and not waste it, and really be present. And I feel like it is adding more stress too, because like the guilt is adding stress. Like, am I really living life to the fullest today? I've been on my phone a lot. Or have I really been hugging the kids enough? What if I have a reoccurrence? Or is there, something that I can do today that'll help my health because I haven't eaten because I'm stressed? Like, it's stupid. It's so stupid. Like, I think there's this like competition within yourself just because you beat something. You're like, okay, how do I maintain this? And lead by example and advocate without hurting anybody's feelings. And it's impossible. It's impossible. It's exhausting. Um, and I just feel almost hushed by like all of it. Like I almost don't want to talk about any of it anymore sometimes. Cause like I'm like, no matter what, everybody gets offended. Like if I talk about my birth experience, it pisses off the world. If I talk about my cancer experience, it upsets people because it sucks. And then if I talk about, how privileged it is to just be free and live off grid, it's like a rub in everybody's face who's fucking struggling. Like I get it. Like I'm not struggling in the same ways, but I'm struggling to like, it's like it's different. And like people think that like I'm just like lucky and rich and it's like no. No. Um, oh, I wish I could have your life. No. No. It's been a fight. It's been a fight. Um, love your life, I think that's really, really key here in this in this world. Love your life. Something doesn't serve you, fucking get rid of it. I've had to cut off so many people. I'm like, it kind of touches on like my parents. Like they, I had been like no contact with them for fucking years and calling them, telling them I had cancer and them wanting to just fix everything and come and be with me and help and it just biting me in the ass. It was like another wound, like, okay, like this is how I'm treated when I'm dying. Okay, these people do not love me. Like, even though I like asked them, and told them, hey, yes, help, please. This would be a good time. Yeah, it was so eye-opening maybe because I realized that like literally like you're a fucking angel. Like you saved my family because we had, my partner, he had to take off work and I'm just like a crying mess. But like he could not, like he had to take care of me. He stayed in the hospital with me, and we had just drained all of our money because we were building the house, going to Home Depot, buying all this lumber and all this shit to try to just build a house. And so it just couldn't have came at a worse time. And then just the betrayal with, my family and like my own my own family feeling like, oh, was mom gonna die kind of thing. Like it was just so fucked up and like looking my baby in the eye and like just saying I can't pick you up and like, recovering and can't breastfeed you, sorry, like cold turkey, like, it was not a smooth weaning experience. Like it was so traumatic for her to go from being a kangaroo attached baby to like mom's gone. Like, that's a primal fucking wound. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Um, yeah, it's just so, it was so shitty. And then, like, trying to process life now, it's just kind of like, and I feel like I've been really swarmed with so much positivity recently. It's like I'm getting these, like, big opportunities. I'm getting the opportunity, like to speak with you. I'm getting the opportunity to share my, business with more people. My freaking little sunscreen thing that I make at home is going to be in a freaking magazine in a couple days. And I'm like freaking out because I don't have enough product, but I'm busy making that. And I just feel like that's a really cool opportunity. And like, you know, I don't want any more negativity. Like I don't, it's cancer and negativity is cancer, it's, ugh. So I don't know, having to like reframe my brain too, like just from like the pain response, it makes you angry like a dog, like you're really reactive after experiencing so much pain. Um, and so just trying to soften and tell my body I'm safe and I'm healed. And that's been, I think the biggest like shift in my mind. I'm not
Yeah.
fighting anymore. I'm okay. you know?
It is so hard to calm the nervous system. I mean, I
Yeah.
haven't been through half of that, and I'm constantly having to like just bring myself back into my body. And so that's really valuable what you just told people, because I mean, regardless, I think everyone is just so, like you said earlier, people are so lonely and people are just going through so much that like, I don't know, we already beat ourselves up enough. Like everything you were saying earlier, I relate to. Like I think the same thing when I'm posting my birth stuff, which is why I'm like taking months in between episodes, because I'm like, I just don't want to like upset people. And I'm not trying to be a people pleaser. I just genuinely want to help people. And is this going to actually help people, But
Yeah.
I definitely think we're all trying our best, and I see all the good that you're doing for your farm and your animals. And that's where I want to leave off on a positive note. And I want to ask you, so like, can you want to tell people like about your business and, what are the things that do bring you joy? Like, I know you're an artist and your art, dude. I'm always jealous of artistic people. My dad was a tattoo artist And like my whole family is just so artsy. And when I see people like that, I'm like, your hands do things that mine don't. So like what are your passions? What makes you really happy outside of like being a mom and all of those things?
Oh gosh. Well, I feel like I am an undiagnosed like autistic person just kind of going through life, and I think that's okay. I don't need someone to tell me what I already know. And I think the way that my brain works, it's kind of like I'm hypersensitive to like emotion and animals especially. Like I feel like I just really understand like how they're feeling, and like this whole farming experience has like really like been weighing heavily on me. Lots of emotion with these animals. But it's also super fulfilling. Like I've always wanted this. I've always wanted a bunch of animals. I've never been able to have a bunch of animals like that. And my kids too, like they're just like totally loving the animal life. And so we're like always playing in the yard with the chickens and the ducks. And you know, it it's like I wish I had more time to do like painting. Like I minored in fine art in college, and I only did that because I wanted to finally have some like not self-taught art. Like I taught myself how to play the piano, I taught myself how to play the guitar, taught myself how to paint and draw, and I really just wanted to like know like the real way of doing it. And it really just kind of taught me more about like theory and like history than anything, which is cool and helpful. But my artistic style always kind of showed through like on its own. Like I loved printmaking. That's like by far my favorite. Like you do a lot of carving, a lot of like ink rolling, which is kind of like painting. And I was able to get a lot of stuff published like in college journals. Which is just like super cute. I can whip those out, like, show the kids, like, look, mommy's in a little book. And it's next to like all of these like cool poems and stuff. And the good memory I have of college is that's the time that was published. And I used to do like open mics and stuff. I used to take my guitar and just put my ferret in my pocket actually, and I'd go and I'd jam at, bars and stuff, and I wouldn't get drunk. I was literally just wanting to play music and sing, and um it was a good outlet. And motherhood kind of takes that from you. I have not been as creative like that. Like recently I've been trying to like write songs and sing more and be more like creative, which is fun. And because it makes me feel good. It helps my freaking mind process stuff. I always feel better. And you know I struggle a lot with like pent up rage, and the art is very like other side of that. And music too, I notice like I get very like um it's like a stem, like you're like swaying, and you feel like you're hugging this instrument. It's very intimate, it's very like I love it. And so it hits all the marks for my closeness that I have with art. But it's one of those things where it's like if I play a song online, like do I really want like people feeling that moment with me? So I mean, I haven't really shared a lot of stuff that like I do. I used to be really big on like commissions. Like I used to like paint like watercolor like paintings of like people's kids and stuff, and like I just don't really like monetizing off of it. Like even though I can, I don't like it. So now, I mean, I used to do like paint and sips. Do they have those there? Like wine painting and stuff.
I
Yeah.
have
So
one right down the street from me.
I used to be an art teacher there. So that was really fun, and I do that now with the kids. So that's kind of my creative shit as I do little tea parties and painting with the kids and play guitar at nighttime. Um, and yeah, the herbal stuff that I do, it's gosh, I've kind of had like this herbal side to me for a long time.
Hey friends, Lizzie jumping back in here again. For some reason, this was exactly when we had started talking about Zoe's entrepreneurial things, her sun cream business, and all of that. She went into like a 5 minute, detail answering some questions I had about it, but for whatever reason, Riverside cut it's completely muted. There's a 4 minute gap of nothing. So definitely go check out Zoe and all the things that I mentioned in the beginning because you can find out more on her page. You can find out in the show notes. I'll have her websites linked because she is very passionate about the work that she does. And I really hate that you guys did not get to hear that part of this recording. But thank you so much for being here. Make sure you subscribe to the show, subscribe to Zoe's things, and we will see you in the next episode. Love you.